All right, so for today, we are going to be covering writing equations of piecewise functions. So last lesson, we were graphing piecewise functions. So for this lesson, we're going to be writing piecewise functions. So in order for us to do that, we're going to review a little bit on how to write equations of lines. So here we have y equals mx plus b. That would give us the equation of the line. And in order for us to write the equation, we need to find the slope. So first we have to find 2 points on the graph. So there's 2. We're going to count them 1, 2, 3. And then the run is 1. So then our rise over run would be 3 over 1, which is 3. So instead of m, we're going to write 3. And then b is our y-intercept. So our graph crosses here at -1. So here we're going to put a -1 instead of b. Okay, we're still going to write our equation. It's going to be y equals 3x minus 1. All right, the next example. So on this one, we're still going to do the same thing. We're going to find 2 points on the graph. So here is 1 point and here is another point. Let's see. Right here. Okay, so the rise, it goes down 2, so 1, 2. And the run is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So our slope is going to be negative this time. So we're going to write in the form of y equals mx plus b, where m is a slope. So the m we found was -2 over 5. And then we write it as y equals -2 over 5x. And then our b is our y-intercept. So in this case, our graph crosses here at +3. So we are going to write +3. All right, this is a horizontal line. Now remember, your horizontal lines from our last lesson give you a 0 slope, okay? So then when we write in the form of y equals mx plus b, you don't have a slope. You don't have, this is 0, okay? So all you're gonna have is a y equals b. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and erase that because it's a little messy. But the way that you do this is you see, okay, where does it cross this y-axis? So it crosses at 1, 2, 3, 4 at -4. And it crosses your y-axis at -4. So you put y equals -4. That's it for that one. All right, now we're going to write the equation of a line passing through these 2 points. So we are going to write it as m equals x2, oh, sorry, the y's go on the top. And so the reason is because your rise is vertical, it's up and down. So your rise is your y value. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, so on the top, we subtract our y values starting with the second point. So I am going to subtract -2 minus 6 on top equals, and then on the bottom, we are going to subtract the x values. Okay, so we're going to put 9 minus -3. So 9 minus -3. So when you subtract a negative, 2 negatives make a positive. So we get -2 minus 6 is -8, and 9 plus 3 is 12. All right, so we cannot leave this like this. We have to simplify it. So -8 over 12 would simplify. We can divide both by 4. So -8 divided by 4 gives us -2. And on the top, 12 divided by 4 gives us 3. So it would reduce to -2 over 3. So when we're writing our equation of our line, y equals mx plus b, to find the equation of our line, not only do we need the slope, which is what we just found, we found it to be -2 over 3, but we still need the y-intercept, okay? So in order for us to find the y-intercept, I'm going to go ahead and use one of these points. Now you can pick either point. It doesn't matter which one you pick. So I'm going to do my work off here to the side. Y equals mx plus b. And we're going to solve for b. We're going to solve for the y-intercept. So I'm going to take my y. I'm going to use this one. I'm going to take my y and plug it in. So -2. Sorry. Equals. And then instead of m, we found our slope to be -2 over 3. And then I'm going to go ahead and multiply that times my x value. So I was using this point, so I'm going to use 9. And then it's going to be plus b. And we are solving for b. That's what we're trying to figure out. So negative 2/3, we're going to multiply negative 2 times 9, and that gives us negative 18 over 3 plus b. Now, negative 18 divided by 3 is going to give us negative 6 plus b, and then we're going to add the 6 to solve for b. So negative 2 plus 6 gives us 4. This cancels here, and we found our b, so now we're ready to plug it in. So it's going to be y equals negative 2/3 x, and since our b was positive, it's going to be plus 4. Okay, and that's it. All right, this one, we're going to use translations to write the equation of the lines. So on this first one, this is a quadratic function, okay? Your parent function is y equals x squared. But we're going to go ahead and apply the translation. So if we see from usually our parent function, the vertex is located here at the origin, but in this case, it is shifted 2 units to the right. So then remember, your horizontal shifts will go inside with the x. And then we go ahead and write. So since we went to the right, remember it's always opposite. It's going to be minus 2. So even though your positive numbers are on the right, your horizontal shifts are always opposite. And then the next is it moves down 1, 2, 3, and 4. For some reason, my pen's not writing. There it goes. 2, 3, and 4. So move down 4. And this one is just regular. We put minus 4. And that is your equation of your line. Okay, let's try the next one. This is our absolute value function. So your parent function is y equals the absolute value of x. So then from here, here's my origin. I see that it moves 1 to the left. So then that means that when I'm writing my absolute value function, it's going to be y equals the absolute value of, and then inside the parentheses, not the parentheses, the absolute value is going to be x, and then since it went to the left, it's going to be plus, and it went to the left 1, so plus 1. I'm going to make these a little bit dark just so you don't think they're 1s and you know that they're the absolute value. And then we see how many units it moved up. So it moved up 1, 2, 3 units. So we're going to go ahead and add 3. Okay. All right, from there, we are going to move to the next one. This one is your cubic equation. So on your cubic equation, it looks like this. Y equals x to the 3rd power. Okay, this is our cubic. So then from there, usually this little point right here is right here at the origin. Okay, but it is shifted 1, 2, 3, and 4 units to the left. So since it's 4 units to the left, we are going to add 4 inside the parentheses with the x, because that's your horizontal translation. And then we're going to see how many units up. So in this case, it went up 1, 2 units. So this one is going to be plus 2. Okay. And then last, this one, our parent function is our square root. So y equals the square root of x. And usually, it's right here at the center. Okay. But in this case, it's not at the center. So we're going to do y equals, and it moved to the right 1, 2 units. So it's going to be in the square root with the x. So it's going to be x, and then remember it's to the right, so it's going to be minus, so x minus 2. And then from there, outside of the square root is where we put our vertical shift. So it went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to not add 5, sorry. Subtract 5. All right, let's go ahead and move to the next one. Okay, so now we're going to actually get into the equations, okay? So on here, what we're going to do first is we're going to figure out our boundaries. I'm sorry, you guys can probably hear my dog barking. All right, so then first off, I'm going to figure out this little section right here. Oh, didn't go far enough. right here. Okay, so we're going to focus on this little section right here. And so first, if we notice here, it even tells you write your work for section A here. So that's where we're going to write our work. And then right here is where we have our work that we're going to show. Okay, so then right here it says -1, right? That's where our boundaries are. It's -1, and it's all the points this way. Okay, so that means that for our boundaries, it's going to be x is less than -1. Now, if you notice on graph A, this is a closed circle. Okay, so on graph A, in this first section, it's not only just less than, but it's less than and equal to. Okay, so then we're going to go ahead and move to the next one. We're going to write the boundaries for B. So here's my section. Okay, so then for graph B, we're going to go ahead and do our work here. And then let's go ahead and write our boundaries for graph B. And that's going to go, this would be the equation. And then this would be the boundaries. So if we look here on our graph, it goes from -1, and it is an open circle here, all the way up to +2, and it's also an open circle here. So we're not going to use the equal to sign, we're just going to use a less than. So it's going to be from -1 to 2. So if we recall when we were doing intervals, we write it like this, from -1 to 2, the x goes in the middle and the less than signs go in between. Okay, and then the last section that we're going to write, the last equation, it starts here, and then it's everything this way. Okay. All right, so then from here, we're going to try to figure out which number this is. So it starts here at 1, 2, 3. At +3, it is a closed circle, and it's everything to the right. So it's going to be x is greater than or equal to 3. Okay, so we're going to write that. We're going to show our work here, and then we're going to write our equation in this section. Okay, so it is going to be x is greater than or equal to +3. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with this. Now, A is a linear function. I feel like A might be the most work, so it might be a little bit tedious, but I don't want you guys to get discouraged. And then B and C are just going to be translations of parent functions. Okay, so since A is linear, we are going to have to find 2 points on the line. So I am going to see there's 1 point right here, and then there's another point right here. That means that our rise is 1, 2, 3, 4, and our run is 1, 2, 3. Okay, and it's going down. So when we write our equation of our line, y equals mx plus b, instead of m, we are going to write our slope, which is -4/3. Okay, and then we're going to have to find our b. Now, we don't know what our b is because it does not cross through the y-axis. It kind of stops right before, and it's actually not going to stop at a certain point. It is going to cut right in between. Thank you. So now we are going to solve for it. So I'm going to take one of these points. I'm going to take this point right here that is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. Okay. So that point is 4, 0. And that's the point that I'm going to use to help me solve for B. So we plug it into our slope formula, slope-intercept form, mx plus b. So instead of b, we're going to write 0. Instead of y, we're going to write 0. Instead of m, we're going to write -4/3. And instead of x, we're going to write 4. and then this is plus b. So we're going to start solving for b. Negative 4/3 times 4 is going to give us negative 16 over 3, and then 3 does not divide into 16. Okay, so we can't simplify that either, so we're just going to move it to the other side to solve for b by adding a positive 16 over 3. Okay, they cancel each other out. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. So 0 plus 16 over 3 is going to give you 16 over 3, which is your b. Okay. So now we know our equation. Now that we found our b, now we can write the equation of our line. So it's going to be y equals negative 4/3 x plus 16 over 3. Okay. Negative 4/3 we got from counting it on the graph. 16 over 3 we did have to solve for. Okay. But of course, like I said, this is the most tedious part. Now, I am not going to put the y equals when I write this down because it has here f of x equals. So all we have to put is the mx plus b. So negative 4/3 x plus 16 over 3. And like I said, I promise that one is the most difficult part. The rest of them is our translations, okay? So this next one, section B, is a quadratic function. Okay, because it's a little parabola shape. And so we need to remember a quadratic function is y equals x squared. And then we're going to perform the translation. Okay, so usually our vertex is at 0, 0, but if we see our vertex is up here at 1, okay? The next thing that we need to see is that our graph is reflected across the x-axis. It's facing in the opposite direction. It's facing down. So that means that we need to have a negative in front. We do not have a horizontal translation, so it's just going to be x squared. And then since it shifted up to 1, we put plus 1. Okay. And just like the other problem, we do not write y equals because it already has the f of x here. Remember, f of x means the same thing as y. So we are going to put it right here, negative x squared plus 1. All right. And then the next one, it says, write the equation for section C. Okay. We need to remember that this is our square root function. Square root. Okay. And on our square root function, usually it starts at 0, 0, but it is translated. Okay. We need to figure out how many units it's translated. Okay. So it's translated to the right. So whatever it's horizontally translated is going to go inside the square root. So I'm going to go ahead and count how many units. So it's 1, 2, and 3 to the right. So it's going to be minus 3, and then 1, 2, and 3 down. So plus 3 outside of the square root. Okay. Now we're ready to write it onto our graph. So here is the square root of x minus 3 plus 3. Okay. Let's see. The next section. All right, so this one has 3 sections? Yes, 3 sections, sorry. Does it? No, it has more. It has 4 sections. Okay, it wasn't crazy. All right, so let's go ahead and set our boundaries first. So here we have section A. Our section A is a linear function. Remember, the linear functions are a little bit more difficult to work with. They're not difficult, it's just it has a lot more work than your translation. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight my section A. This is all where my A graph is, okay? These are the boundaries that are set for A, is right here. So if we notice on our graph, it starts at 1. Now, if you notice here, it does not have an open circle, so that means it is closed. And so it's going to include all the numbers that are less than 1. So when we write our boundaries down here, we're going to take this space. This space would be for the equation. This space is for the boundaries. Okay, so our boundaries are x is less than or equal to 1. Okay, now we have equation B. So equation B is this tiny little section here. All right, right there. And so that tiny little section is going to be from here all the way to this point here. Now we do notice right here, it is an open circle. And so there's a reason why I placed an open circle on this section. And the reason for that is because I already included that point on graph A. So when you include that point, there's a rule, I don't know if you remember. I'm going to do a real quick short thing here. In order for us to verify if something is a function, it cannot pass through the graph more than once, right? It cannot have 2 points at the same time. If not, then that is not a function. So this is why on the first section, right here, this one is, whoops, there. This one is included in section A, but not included in section B, because that would mean that we would have 2 points at the same time. Okay, just a real quick brief description of that. So on there, our boundaries are going to be from 1 to 3. So remember, when you have two numbers, you put 1, and then the 3, you start with the 1 on the left and the 3 on the right. The X goes in the middle, and then we use our less than signs on both of them because both of them do not include the points 1 and 3. Okay, they're open circles. Okay, now the next section, which is kind of weird, this is something that you guys are probably not used to, but on this section, it is just a point C. Okay, and it might seem a little weird or a little complicated. It is not bad at all. Whoops. So this is going to be the sections. I forgot to highlight this one. Okay, and then this section, it's just a point. So I'm just going to write the point of C here. So the point of C is 1, 2, 3, 3, comma, and then my Y value is 1, 2. Okay, this is my X value. This is my Y value. So when we write our boundaries, it is just going to be X is equal to 3. Okay, and that's it because it's only equal to that one number. And so when X equals 3, I'm just going to write this one in since we're already here. Our Y value is 2. So you put 2 here. I don't know if you can see that really good. I'm going to make it black. Okay, and then lastly is section D. Now here's my section D. We're going to write our boundaries for section D. And so if we notice, our D graph starts at this point here, which is 3. It is an open circle at D, and then it's everything to the right. And so all the numbers to the right are greater than. So it is going to be, whoops, X is greater than 3, not equal to. Okay, so X is greater than 3. So if you look at this, if you notice here, on this one, it's less than 3, but it's not equal to 3 here. It is equal to 3 here, and then it's not equal to 3 here. Okay, you can't have your X values repeat. So it can't be equal to 3 on all 3 sections. If you do put that, then that means you did something wrong. Okay, if it's equal to 1 here, then it cannot be equal to 1 on this section here. Okay, so you need to make sure that you double check that to make sure it's not equal in 2 places. Okay, because if it is, then that's not a function. Okay, so now that we have this down, we're going to go ahead and write our equations. So on the first section here, we have section A. Now this one, you can tell once again that our y-intercept is not a whole number, so we can't just look on the graph and write the equation. We're going to have to take 2 points on the graph to write our equation. So let me go ahead and find 2 points. There's 1 point right here and another point right here. That rise over run is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So our slope m is equal to 3 over 2. Next, I'm going to go ahead and get a point. So I'm going to take this point right here. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's -7, -5. And I am going to use that point on my slope-intercept form. So in my y equals mx plus b, I'm going to plug in all the information that's given to me. This is my x value. This is my y value to find my y-intercept. So my y value here is -5 equals, our slope is 3 over 2. Our x is -7 plus b. And so -7 times 3 is going to give us -21 over 2 plus b. Okay, so then this one, we cannot simplify this fraction. I am just going to change this into a decimal just because I think you guys would understand it a little bit better. And then also, it's not like a big complicated decimal. It's a simple decimal. And negative 21 divided by 2 would give us negative 10.5. Okay. Now, if we do need to change it back to a fraction, we can go ahead and do that. But for now, we're just going to go ahead and move it to the other side by adding 10.5. All right, so then from there, the 10.5s cancel. Negative 5 plus 10.5 is going to give us 5.5 equals b. Okay, so now we can write our equation of our line. It's y equals, our slope we said was 3 over 2. Is it positive? Yes, I forgot to double check. Sometimes I forget to check to make sure I have the positive or the negative slope when needed. And then x plus 5.5. Our slope is positive. Now I'm going to go ahead and change it to a fraction here, or change it back to a fraction. So that would end up being, let me see, 11 over 2. So plus 11 over 2. Okay, so that's the equation for that line. On this line, let's go ahead and find the slope. So I'm just going to use the points that they give us here. Or look, this point and this point. So it goes down 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it goes to the right one. So it's going to be m, which is our slope. It goes down 4 and to the right 1, so that means our slope is negative 4. And we're going to go ahead and pick a point. So it goes 1, 2 to the right. So 2, 1, 2, 3. I hope I counted that right. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to find our equation of our line. So it's going to be y equals mx plus b. All right. And then here we're going to get 3 instead of y. M is negative 4. X is 2. And then plus b. Negative 4 times 2 gives us negative 8. We're going to move the 8 to the other side by adding it, and we get 11 equals b. Sorry, this got a little messy. So now we have y equals, I'm going to write it up here. Our slope we said was negative 4x, and our b was 11. So this one had a little bit of prettier numbers, not so crazy, no fractions. Now remember, when we write this down, we don't write the y, we just do the negative 4x plus 11. And then last is this one. Now, section D is not only, it is a line, but it's a constant line. So if we see it crosses through, or if it continued this way, it would cross through our y-axis at 1, 2, 3, 4. So that means y is equal to 4. So here for the equation of this one, it's y equals 4. So that's all we have to write here. Remember, you don't want write the y equals, you just write the 4. And that's it. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments. If you guys need any help, you guys can contact me or your teachers. I will also include a video on how to use the Delta Math on this one, but I didn't want to add it to this one because it'd make it a little bit long. So I will leave the link to that one in the description box for you to watch in case you need extra help on how to graph these on Delta Math. Thank you guys. Bye.